Welcome back, barbecue fans. It's another week of the Wise Guys Barbecue Podcast. I'm Vin Picaro, Bob Bauman here to my left. And when Bob's in studio, it means only one thing. We're talking competition barbecue. And this week, we're going to hit on the horn for you, Chris Hatcher from Haches Barbecue. He was the grand champion of the Championship Barbecue Alliance World Cookoff. He knocked it dead out there, scoring a perfect 200 in pork and a couple of other wonderful scores. So we want to hear all about that event because that event is massive in itself. And
that was huge.
Yeah.
138 teams.
Oh, geez. It's just so much going on. So, God bless for just winning that thing. And lucky enough, three of those winners, right, first, second, and third, were elevated for the BBQ World Cup being held in 2027 for that $1 million. So, we're gonna have him on. We're gonna hear his story, and he's also gonna get a big apology from me because I misspoke in our other report on the BBQ World Cup when I announced three other winners as the first winners of this year that got elevated to the 2027 competition. In reality, they weren't the first three. They were the second, well, two. They were the second group of winners, which were two winners. So we're going to hear from Chris, and we'll get him on the horn here for you, and we'll see and hear all about it. All right, folks, here he is, Chris Hatcher from Haches Barbecue, the grand champion of the world competition of Championship Barbecue Alliance World Competition. I got too many words in my mouth. But for sure, that was a hell of an accomplishment. Congratulations, Chris. We want to meet you. We want to hear about that competition because I just think it's amazing the amount of people that are involved and how that whole thing works out. So please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Chris Hatcher, Haches Barbecue, and I'm in Fort Worth, Texas.
Nice. How long you been cooking?
Man, I think my first competition was in 2011.
Okay. All right.
Started quite a few years ago now. We did, I don't know, maybe a couple of the first year. And then, as, the next 2 or 3 years went on, we did, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4.
Okay.
It was just kind of slow. And then about 2015 is 2016 is when I hit it pretty hard. And
nice.
we jumped up from, doing 3 or 4 a year to doing 35, 40 a year.
Oh, Jesus. Right. And so, all right, hold on. Take a deep breath, audience. There's only 52 weekends in a year, right? So you're cooking 35 to 40 of those weekends? Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, we hit it pretty hard the first few years. And then, it just continued to get bigger and bigger. I think the most we ever did it was 46 in 1 year.
Wow. That's amazing. So, I mean, is it safe to say somebody of your caliber and experience, you're making some money at this now, right? Because I know these things they're a hell of investment, and if you're doing that 40 times a year, you're going to go broke, man.
It's so kind of a weird deal. Like my kids started racing dirt bikes during COVID.
Okay.
And we, all the barbecue was kind of shut down. There weren't any competitions or anything. So we got into racing, and he's been in love with that for years.
Okay.
And we spent probably more money doing that than we did barbecue.
Oh, wow.
But the only difference is in barbecue, you can win your money back.
Exactly.
We couldn't win our money back in dirt bikes.
Yeah, right.
So, to say we win money, it's a stretch. To say we win, it definitely helps, like we do win money back, on top. But, yeah, it's
so you say
one year I think we made 40 grand.
Nice.
That was the only year. Everything else has been kind of a bust. But
yeah,
anytime you can make money, or offset some of the expenses, it's a good day.
So now you're saying is there somebody else in your team, or is it your wife, or who's the we?
Yeah, so it's pretty much just me now.
Okay.
My kids cook with me now. My oldest is 13.
Nice.
And he cooks with me now. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Kind of a family deal. So
awesome.
Yep, good. Good deal.
So I don't know, Bob, jump in with some questions whenever you want, but what's that tournament like? I mean, how is it? I mean, is it organized well? Is it, by the book? That's going to be a huge lift just getting that competition off the ground. 140 something teams.
Now, is that an open competition?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be a member.
Yep.
But I mean, I think most people are members. It's like $50 a year or something.
Right.
But,
yeah. I was a member.
It's an open competition. You just pay your membership and you can cook it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a huge event. It's one of the larger ones in Texas now. Not the largest, but 140 teams is a pretty good contest.
Yep. Sure.
There's a lot that goes into those, the planning, the parking, the laying out everything, the all the help that they get, to put on an event like that, sponsors, and that's a big deal.
Yep. And what's your travel time to the Cookoff competition area?
For me, I think it was about 4 hours, I believe.
Okay. So that's not
in Texas terms. That's I'll be there in 20 minutes.
Going to the corner.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
For
great.
sure.
So, I mean, you go into the competition, were you feeling as confident about your pork as you scored, or how did that go?
Yeah. So funny story. I went in, I try to go into every cook confident. Yep. I want to go in with a game plan. I want to be confident in what I'm doing, what my game plan is. We spend a lot of money doing this.
Sure.
And, I want to give myself the best shot to win, right? Like every week.
Of course.
So for some weird reason, I was like, man, I don't like my chicken. I don't like my brisket.
Oh.
So I'm gonna run new recipes.
Oh, boy.
And man, I cooked my chicken. Chicken was great. I didn't, there wasn't anything that I was really upset about.
Yeah, you scored nicely. What you get in the chicken?
I think
195.
195, 196.
195.
Yeah.
I think it was.
So
nice.
Chicken, out of the gate was good. I didn't think I'd missed big on it. I think, I hit all my texture, tenderness, flavors were good.
Okay.
And I get on to ribs.
Hold on. The chicken, is that a chicken half or is that chicken thighs? What you cook?
Yeah. So in Texas, we can cook. In CBA, you can cook anything, basically.
Okay. Just not shredded, I guess?
Yeah.
No shredded. Yeah.
Right.
You can cook thighs, wings, halves, combinations, legs.
Okay.
This year I did a half and chicken wings.
Okay. All right.
So filled the box up, pretty nice. Last year I ran an all wing box at CBA Worlds and it did not score very well.
Okay.
So I noted that. And this year I made a change to run half and wings, just to give myself a better chance.
Yep. I mean, what's the hardest thing about wings? Getting it nice and crispy, I guess.
I run a KCBS wing. I butter bath my wings.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're super tender and super soft.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Great. So go ahead. You moved on to your ribs.
Yeah. So, chicken turn in was pretty good.
Yeah.
I get to ribs and, I felt like the cook was going fine. I think, I don't know what happened, honestly. They tightened up on me.
Yeah.
I thought I had kind of missed on my tenderness, pretty big.
All right.
CBA, it's a minimum of 6 pieces or 6 bites, basically like a KCBS or something. I like to do a full box. I like to do a 4-on-4 or a 5-on-5 just to get a nice presentation, nice full box.
Right.
But I just didn't have the ribs that day. So I actually turned in 6 bones.
Oh, wow.
The best bones that I could get.
Yep.
And was hoping that flavor would carry me. And, I was really, really happy with the flavor of them. I just felt like I'd kind of missed a little bit on my tenderness.
Okay.
But I didn't think it was enough to kill me,
Right.
In that large of a field, you never know. Right.
Right.
You hit the right table, you hit the right judges, and it can work.
Yep.
And it did. And at the end of the day, going into, at the end of the turn-ins, that I thought ribs were my last, my weakest category.
Okay.
And at the end of the competition, it was.
Oh, yeah.
They were 41st, I believe.
Yep.
So,
okay.
yeah, they kind of.
But we made up for it, right? You made up for it with pork, but you made up for it in pork.
Yeah. Yeah. So we get to pork and, everything, like I said, the cook was going pretty good.
Yeah.
It was super windy. It was cold, but man, it was going as smooth as it could, really.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had nailed my texture on pork and, I finished it. I boxed it, and I was really, really happy with pork that day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Thought I'd nailed everything on my pork.
Yeah.
Obviously, it worked out. We had first perfect 200, but yeah, it was good. I liked pork that day.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great. And then you finished up your brisket. How'd you do on your brisket?
Yeah, so I was, I was a little nervous about that. I was telling you, I ran a new chicken and I ran a new brisket.
Right.
Yep.
I don't know. My brisket had, afterwards, I went back and looked. Man, my brisket had been scoring fine. There was something about it. Maybe I've been cooking it too long. It was just kind of blah to me.
Right.
So I wanted to switch it up. I wanted to try some stuff. Man, why not at a world championship?
Yeah, right.
So, I ran my cook and did my finish, and everything was perfect. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was good. I was happy with that turn in.
Right. What are you cooking that brisket on? Are you all drums?
I'm on a Jambo.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I went down the drum route, man. I'm not a drum cook. I don't know. They just not for me. You know? But turned in brisket, did burn ends and slices, and
nice.
a lot of in Texas in CBA you can do basically whatever. And I felt like going into that cook-off, you had to throw a Hail Mary, right? Like you had to have everything.
Right.
Sure.
And I felt like having slices and burn ends.
Yep.
You needed it there.
Yep. Nice. That's great.
You cook whole or you split?
So I split mine. Yeah.
You split yours?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Tell the non-competitor what that means.
So your packer has the point.
Yep.
And the flat.
Yep.
And either you cook it whole or you separate the point from the flat.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did Chris say? You cook the whole?
He cooks.
No,
you split it. You split them. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it just makes it easier.
Great.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So how many competitions have you done already in 2026?
Oh man, let's see. We started off New Year's Eve, New Year midnight. We did a rib cook-off.
Yeah.
We left there. That was one, and then that same weekend we went to another CBA, and we've done. Let's see, CBA Worlds. So that would be 3. We did San Antonio 4, and then we did another one. So I think we've done 5 already.
And we're only like what 6 weekends into the new year. Yeah. 6 or 7 weekends in the new year, and you already cooked 5. Yeah, it's mid-February.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, I was talking to some friends last night, and about schedules, and I pulled mine up. I'm like, man, I've got the next 6 weeks on the schedule.
Oh man,
so it's going to be busy.
Yeah, God bless you.
So, winning your qualifier for the World Cup, has that changed your schedule?
No, not really. No, everything's as is.
You're just a competition junkie.
Yeah, I mean, my goal, that was a goal, right? Yep. Like that was to get into the World Cup was a goal, and we got lucky and checked that off.
Yep.
Now, man, I'm just going to continue, on my schedule and continue everything that we're doing.
Right.
The next goal, and it's, as all competition guys know, the jack.
The jack.
Yep. That's the hardest one, and. I've cooked for years and years and years, and I've been close to getting all 7, but I've never been. So we're gonna continue on and try to chase the bungs and see if we get lucky.
Right.
Yep. Any chance getting you up here in Rhode Island?
I'm eyeing those CBAs.
You're eyeing the CBAs. Okay.
Yeah, nice.
I am. Cool. Yes. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, they look fun, and man, I've heard a lot of good things about those cook-offs up there. So
yeah. No, Matt's doing a great job. He puts heart and soul into his promotion. So God bless him. He's got a good team behind him, and they get a lot of good stuff done. So no, if you do get up here, you're going to make sure you let us know so we can get a big hello to you. Maybe have a beer with you or something good like that.
So Absolutely. you do both CBA and KCBS.
I do. Yes, sir.
You do. How do you change?
In Texas, we don't have a lot though.
No. So do you, your recipes and your cooks and things like that, pretty much standard across the board, or do you change things up depending on the sanctioning body?
No, I don't. In Texas, we're lucky. We have quite a few different sanctioning bodies. CBA, we do have a few KCBS. We have Outlaw, IBCA, Lone Star. We've got a ton.
Right.
But my cooks are exactly the same. My recipes, my flavors are exactly the same. The only thing I will do cooking basically like Texas sanctions compared to KCBS is my tenderness.
Yeah.
I'll change it a little bit just because, you can't push it as far in KCBS as you can Texas. In Texas, we're eating, all of our judges are off the street and they're using plastic fork and knife.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So, your food has to be super tender for them, to cut everything or whatever. But no, as far as recipes and flavors and all that, I run the same thing.
Yep.
No matter what. I went to Georgia last year for the Royal Oak Invitational. I'm on Team Royal Oak.
Right.
And I ran my normal Texas brisket there, and we ended up with a perfect 180 first place.
Beautiful. So, that's awesome.
Man, I think, and I tell people all the time, man, to me, a recipe is a dime a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
If you can nail your texture and your tenderness every time, that's what's going to get your walks. That's what's going to get you paid and win those trophies.
Right.
Everybody's got good flavor.
Yeah.
And you know that, you cook the meat how it's supposed to be cooked, and it'll usually work out.
Do you have your own brand of rubs and sauces?
I don't. No,
so you're basically doing what everybody else is doing, is using the other rub sauces, mixes, blends, layered of flavors.
Yes, sir. That's it. Yeah.
How about classes? Do you run any classes? Do you offer any of that? I don't know how you would have time to, but I was just curious.
I've been asked for years and years and years to do some classes, and I never have.
Yeah.
But we're actually working on one for 2026. So.
Oh, good. Good luck with that.
We're gonna put something together. So.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Can you tell us what meats you use? What brand meats? Chicken, pork?
Yeah. So on chicken, I usually run, we have a bunch of HEBs down here, and we run the naturals from HEB. I'll run on chicken. What are the name of those? And I'm drawing a blank.
Is it two names? Bell Evans?
Yes, that's it. Bell and Evans. Yes,
Bell
I love
Evans.
those. They're hard to get, but man, if I can get them, I'm going to cook a Bell and Evans. They're great chickens.
They seem to have just popped up here in Rhode Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pork, I'm running Prairie Fresh.
Yep.
All right.
So
the primes, I'm assuming primes.
No, I'm just running the naturals.
Oh yeah.
From Walmart.
Okay.
I've ran the primes before, and we've done okay with them, but honestly, here in Texas, I don't think you need them really.
Well, and CBA is just, I don't want to say the random Joe, but it's people off that they're not certified judges. It's just regular people coming in to taste.
Right.
So
you don't have to take a class.
Would they know? Do they have the palate to taste?
All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, for sure. It's what people at home cook. You know?
What they're used to, what their palate's used to.
Exactly what they're used to. Brisket, though, I do cook Wagyu. I cook Snake Rivers. So
Okay.
Man, that's, I think chicken and ribs and pork, you can kind of get away with, commodity, regular grocery store stuff. But when it comes to brisket, I'm cooking the best that I can get my hands on.
Yep.
That's great.
And your pork butt, are you just doing money muscle, or cooking whole and trimming down?
Yeah, so it just depends on really the sanctioning. KCBS, I'll cook a trimmed down butt, that way I can get bacon, tubes if I need, I'll do the whole pork deal. KCBS in Texas, I run just a collar.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just an easier cook for me with the room I have and everything. It's just easier. I can cook I can cook usually 4 collars, and I can get enough, nice medallions and cubes or chunks to put in the box and fill it up.
Okay. Yeah.
Fantastic. Chris, what I was curious about is, on the percentage wise, what do you think competition you cook in Texas compared to out of Texas? Is that like a 20-80 split or a 50-50 split? How does that work for you?
Yeah, it's probably more 95.
95.5. Yeah, really. Well, I heard you went to Georgia, so I didn't know where else you might have got out of Texas for. So
we do venture out to Oklahoma and different places.
Yeah.
Not very often though.
Okay.
I mean, we might have 4 or 5 a year.
Gotcha.
That we travel outside, but yeah, most of our
so
stuff
it's like 90-10. So 4 or 5 out and the other 35 in. So maybe like 90-10. All right, good. That helps me. What's your walk-up song?
Well, I just changed my walk-up song at CBA Worlds, so it's Little Wayne, Mirror.
Oh, really? Why did you change? And what did you change from?
Okay, well, a funny story about this.
All right.
So my original walk-up song was Dirty Head's Vacation.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've heard it. It's a pretty cool song.
Yeah.
So anyways, I had that for, about a year and a half. And last summer we were at a Cookoff and we were at a CBA event down in El Campo. Well, I was cooking next to some friends of mine and, turned in chicken or whatever and got to ribs. And I knew as soon as I picked my ribs up, they weren't real good. Like they weren't just, they didn't feel right. I didn't like the texture, the tenderness. So anyways, I started my finish process. I glazed them, whatever. And I walked over and they were finishing, or starting their process on ribs.
Yep.
And I told them, I said, have you ever heard that Toby Keith song, Ain't As Good As I Once Was? And they started laughing. And I was like, that's me right now. I was kind of throwing a little fit or whatever. And so anyways, it was kind of a joke. And so we get to awards and this award ceremony or whatever is in a pool.
Okay.
In a pool.
In a pool or around a pool?
It's in a pool.
Oh,
they have a huge stage. They have bars like in the pool and stuff. It is super, super cool. So anyways, we get to awards that afternoon and they called chicken and we didn't top 10 chicken. Get to ribs. Man, I knew I wasn't going to get a call on ribs. So the same husband and wife I was friends of mine I was hanging out with, she was like, Chris, she's like, your pork and your brisket were really good today. She's like, I think you got a shot, walk in or whatever. I was like, yeah, maybe. Sure enough, we get a 6th place port.
Okay.
There's probably 70, 80 teams at this cook-off. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm happy with that. Right.
Sure.
Well, I go up to the front, I get my award and I come back and she says, she's like, you still got brisket too. She's like, you got a good shot at walking brisket. I'm like, yeah, maybe. So she said, I'm going to make a bet with you. She said, if you walk in both pork and brisket, you have to change your CBA walk-up song for one contest.
Oh.
She said, you have to change it to the Toby Keith, Ain't As Good As I Once Was. And I was like, okay. I was like, fine, I'll make the bet, So anyways, I'm at the bar getting a drink. And sure enough, they play my song.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh, shit, So anyways, I go get my award and I come back and she's cracking up and everybody's laughing about it. And I was like, look, I'm a man of my word. I'm going to do that. So fast forward about 3 or 4 weeks, we're at another cook with the same people, same whole group of us. And I changed my walk-up song. And I ended up GC in the contest off the new song. So it was pretty awesome. I left it that one time and then I changed it because it was just a bet and I was going to go back to my other one. And then I was like, no, I want something new for 26. So I changed it to Lil Wayne. So that was 2 CBAs where I changed my walk-up song and GC'd. So
yeah.
I'm like, should I change it again?
Is this going to be a habit? Yeah.
You found the right one. Why change it?
We're not superstitious until we are superstitious.
Yeah, exactly. So, but CBA is so cool because everybody has the walk-up songs, and you get to learn who everybody is by their songs.
Sure.
And I threw everybody off at CBA Worlds because nobody knew I changed it.
Yeah.
So, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is a funny story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, you'd say most of the people that watch the video are New England, right?
Oh yeah. Our fan base is New England.
Can you give us a little insight into helping out New England people cook CBA events? Just a couple tips and tricks.
Well, have you ever? I guess a better question.
Like he just said, like he goes, in KCBS, you take it, you cook a little more tender than CBA, where
But have you ever witnessed a New England cook in a CBA yet? Have you run by one of those unicorns yet? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like he might not be having advice to give if he doesn't know what baseline of a New England cook. You know what I mean?
Oh, I was just looking like, he only does so many CBAs. What, like, I guess you're right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know
if you don't know what a New England
baseline.
Right. He doesn't have a baseline of a New Englander. He can't give advice. You know what I mean? Kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's why we got to get him up to Rhode Island. I
guess.
Right.
Well,
for sure.
Kind of maybe compare a little bit. Maybe I'm sure you guys have maybe more KCBS that way.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty much dominant.
Yeah, if it were me and I was to come cook a CBA in that area, I would cook my Texas stuff.
Right.
I would cook, my normal profiles, everything. I would just take it 30 minutes longer.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm cooking everything probably about 30 minutes longer, just super tender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think DCBS.
Yeah.
I think DCBS nowadays you can push that envelope a little bit further than what it used to be. I mean, it used to be pretty, popping brisket, super bite off the bone ribs. I think people push that envelope a little more these days. Yeah. I think stuff is a little more tender in KCBS than it used to be, my opinion, from what I cook and some of the teams that I talk to. But if you're going to cook a CBA in that area, man, I would just cook it until it's super, super tender, way past KCBS.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you mentioned it. Your chicken and your ribs are, grocery store, off the shelf product, commodity.
Sure.
But it's the brisket that you go after, the higher end premium Wagyu.
Yep. From Snake River.
So when I competed here for CBA, I switched that around.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I still did the chicken. I didn't do a Wagyu brisket. I did just the prime brisket, figuring that the people here wouldn't know. I mean, they might know, but they wouldn't know. They might say, "Oh, the Wagyu this brisket, so it's fatty."
Yeah.
They wouldn't know. I don't know. So
interesting.
I have a lot of friends here in Texas that still cook primes, and they still do very, very well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the things that I've been quoted to say before is, you might beat me, but you're not going to out-meat me. I'm going to bring the best meat that I can bring.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's, before Wagyu got to where it is now, I cook Wagyu at home all the time. Like I was practicing brisket all the time, and I'd go to a 20-team contest with a Wagyu.
Yeah.
Everybody else is cooking choice and primes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just I couldn't figure it out. It wouldn't score. And I was like, man, maybe it's just that, like you were saying, man, like that fatty of a meat, it was just too much for them. And it was too strong.
Too strong, too rich.
Yeah.
Too rich. Yeah, there you go. Too rich. And then, I finally just pushed it until I finally figured them out. And I never turned back. I mean, if it was a 100-team contest or a 15, 20-team contest, I'm taking the same brisket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like I want to give myself the best chance, just because the consistency of those briskets, they cooked the same every single time. I felt like your end product was the same, week in and week out with those briskets.
Yeah. You get that dialed in process. You want to have consistency in the meat because otherwise you start kicking yourself in the process of what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So good.
I mean, I don't do a lot of cooks. Like, I don't do like 45.
You don't do 36-40?
I don't do what I'm saying is I don't pack my smoker full of like 45 briskets a day.
Yeah.
It's like I do like 2 briskets a week or something like that.
Right.
To sell. And even then, buying by the case, brisket by the case, you'll get that one in there and you just look at it going, this one ain't good.
Yeah.
This is just, but that's when you want top quality, the Wagyu is just that consistent, especially from a processor and a manufacturer, Snake River Farms.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. You want to go in with that confidence too,
Right.
You want to go to that contest to win, obviously. That's why you're going. So, to go into that contest with, the best meat that you can get your hands on at the time, man, I think that does a lot mentally, and a lot of people in competition barbecue don't think about that. It's pretty mental. Sure, there's a lot of, subjectiveness in the flavors and the profiles and all that. But man, mentally, if you're not focused and you don't go in confident with your plan and your meats and all that, man, you're kind of behind the 8 ball to me.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Especially when you mention things like the weather, when you get that windy, cold weather, you're already contending with stuff that wants to kick you off your process. You don't want to be thinking internally like, I'm surprised you even told us you changed some of your profiles on your ingredients and stuff there, because what the heck, you got to keep that stuff dialed in, right? So to do it at the World Championship, maybe a little too ballsy, but
man, I'm a big stickler on that. Like I run my same process, my same program week in and week out.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. Something come over me. I was like, I'm going to change these, and I'm going to do it here. Why not?
Yeah.
But I don't normally veer off of my recipes and stuff. I'm pretty strict on that stuff. So
great.
And it's worked out.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
No.
How long have you been running the same recipes?
Since 2011.
Well, I mean,
I'll say 15 years.
My brisket, the brisket that I changed, I ran it for about 4 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I really kind of tweaked and messed with was it was the same ingredients, just a little bit of the finish.
Uh-huh.
Man, pork, I've been running the same pork for about 1.5 years. Ribs, I've been running for about 3.5 years. And chicken, I feel like is kind of a moving target. I do change my chicken up a little bit. A little bit, more sweet or salty, depending on the time of year here in Texas. In the summertime, a lot of these places we cook are VFWs and places where they're drinking beer.
Okay.
And I think they tend to want more salt.
Yep.
So in the summertime,
salty.
Yeah, in the summertime, I kind of salten my chicken up a little bit just to give it that extra pop that they're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
See,
sure.
That's another good tip.
Yeah, that is.
It depends on where's the event being held.
Yeah.
Because that's drawing the crowd to judge.
Yep.
And then what time of year.
Sure. Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and that's that's kind of on brisket and other meats as well. In the wintertime, salt don't work as well. At least for me, and I know quite a few people here in Texas, it doesn't work as well as it does in the summer. In the summertime, it's hot. People are sweating. They want that salt, especially if they're drinking beer, or whatever.
Yeah.
You have all those different variables, but man, everybody wants salt in the summertime. So I tend to salten everything up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Have you noticed the judge's palate changes over? You've been doing it. What did we say? 15 years. You've been doing this for 15 years.
Yes, sir.
The course of your competition lifetime. Have you noticed judge's palate change, or is it?
I have. I try to keep, and early on I learned this, and I know it's kind of cliche, but middle of the road barbecue. Middle of the road barbecue, I feel like wins more than sweet or salty and spicy,
right.
Just something super balanced and right down the middle. You don't want to offend judges, right? Like you want it to be just kind of right down the middle. That way you don't offend anybody, and you kind of keep those scores right down the middle, if not to the higher side.
Yeah, you want to make sure they can identify with what they're tasting, right? What's going in their mouth is what they expect it to taste like, right? It's like drinking a Coca-Cola. You drink a Coca-Cola because you like it, because you know the taste before you even get it in your mouth, right?
Oh, I can taste it now.
So same thing with the barbecue. If you keep it identifiable for them, they look to rate it. If it's unidentifiable, if it's outside that pendulum swing, now they're like, ew, like I don't understand, right?
Right.
It's basically they get confused. Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And and a lot of times you have to push that envelope of different flavors and being different, but you have to keep it somewhat within the lines, right? Like you can't go too far out. You can't venture too far left or right. You're going to offend somebody.
Yep.
And I run across, newer cooks, especially, they try to throw the kitchen sink at it. And it's like, man, you need to bring it back this way or this way, it just, but to answer the question, honestly, I mean, the only thing that's really changed is the products. I mean, it's basically the same kind of profiles,
right?
Right. For me, I'm a more sweet, savory kind of guy than spicy. I've always ran that, and it's done as well.
Great,
good.
All right, man. So this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you. And again, I am sorry if I offended you in any way by putting you not at first. But thanks for getting on with us today. I'd like to give you this opportunity if there's anybody you want to recognize, a plug on your side.
No, I'd like to thank Royal Oak Charcoal. Man, those guys have. I've been on Team Royal Oak for quite a few years, and they've treated us really, really well. Gourmet Wood Products here in North Texas. Man, they've got really, really great cooking wood. Meat Church barbecue rubs, LC Barbecue, Rio Valley, Chicken Fried. Man, we use all those guys' products, and along with a lot of other people. But man, those guys have great stuff, and they're great people. So we love and supporting those guys. So.
Great,
nice,
awesome. Well, good luck the rest of the season. I hope we get a chance to touch in with you again. If you come to New England and don't tell us, I'm going to be pissed. But if not, if not, we still want to touch base with you. So we'll check back with you a little bit further down the season. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I absolutely
thank you guys.
Love this meeting you and love this interview. It was great.